All right, hey guys, Sam here with you. We're going to get to to the gold analysis here just in a sec, but I just want to remind you guys, in case you didn't see this on Twitter, we do have this contest, this giveaway running. It's a membership giveaway. So you will, this is my version of it here. So of course it's going to show 0 entries because I'm not entered in it. But the idea is you do have to come here and just register. So you have to give it your email address and your Twitter handle, and then again it's back to it's a random drawing for these. So the way that you increase your odds of winning is just by the number of likes, retweets, and shares that that you do of our content, and then the software keeps track of it. Though every time you've got an entry, or every time you retweet or share or like, that gives you a new entry, so you can have dozens and dozens of entries and improve your odds. So just a reminder, that's running, and we will hold the drawing on the 20th, so you're going to have 2 months of free membership, or 1 month for second price, or 2 weeks for third place. So again, I won't hit you with this in every video, but just here while we're launching it here, I'd like just to remind you that that's available to you. Okay, with that, let's get to gold. All right, hey guys, Sam here with you. So we're doing gold today. Now I've got this is the XAU to the USD. I'm using the O&A data feed here. So. Okay, so I just did a very brief update on this over on Twitter. So, but the point I wanted to make here before we get into this, so I'm sitting here on a 4-hour chart. You know, you look at that and you think, oh wow, I've got this nice, beautiful looking impulsive structure. Well, you've got to put it in the context of where you are in the larger count. So, particularly now, I would tell you that gold trades just like a currency. So, but particularly here, if you're trading the CFD here, you got to put it in context of what's happening on the daily. You have to know where you are in the larger count. And here, this is why I like these larger time frames. Here we can see how just this beautiful 5-wave structure coming down. It's very, very hard to miss that. So you can see what. So all I've done here is I've just taken the obvious points of prior resistance. So you can think of it as this is where supply comes into the market, and this we've just run into this little pivot right here. So I'm just including, I could take this even higher because you've got another one up here, but I'm just using the majors. So this is what we just ran into and got rejected from that. Now, keep in mind that with the completed 5-wave impulse here, the fact that we're bumping into this area at the 38, that's, you know, we're looking for, the anticipation is to get a move up here to the 50. So in that context, it looks more to me like we've got the 5 down, we've gone into an A and then an A, B, C to give us the B. You know, we have a little abnormality here in that the C doesn't break the A, but that's not that irregular. Now it was deep. So from taking the highest high here, this goes 786. Well, shit. I'm gonna think of it. This goes, oh, so okay, so we went 786 here. This, we had a very slight break of the 65, very slight. But it's enough. So you'd be anticipating that coming back the other direction. So if I use the most recent dominant, you'd be looking for a little reaction here at the golden zone, and it had no trouble getting through. So remember, algos are going to just keep flipping until they get on the right side of it. So with this swing here now, this being broken, so essentially we've broken on both sides. So don't feel bad for them. They'll just draw this up again. So since that's two in a row for that algo, they'll pull it up here, and they'll take the next 50 or the 618, depending on whatever gets there first, and they'll get on the right side of it. That's what they do. So sooner or later they'll get on the right side of that. So they'll just keep doing the same thing over and over again. So we pull out here, and you got to put that context together and say, okay, well, if it's going to get through that, well, first is it wouldn't be unheard of to have this ABC not break the 38. It's not like we can't break it, despite the fact that we've had this clear 5 waves down. What you'd be looking for in terms of probability, you would be anticipating that we're going to make at least the 50. Now, again, this doesn't mean that then we hit the 50 and then we must go to that algo target. These are just areas where you would anticipate a reaction, where you may find a trend reversal. Well, there's a few things going on here that might support that idea. So right now, given the very impulsive structure that we've had coming off of this low here, you would anticipate that there's very reasonable probability here that we're going to at least make an attempt to break above these levels. So next target would be the 50 if we're going to get up here. Now we've got a few algo targets along the way, and there's some market geometry here that may be helpful. So if I use the A to the B, yeah, I'm going to have to dig in there to get that. So bear with me a sec so I can get right on that. All right, it's hard to see it. Okay, so here would be that pivot. So if I, let's see how I am over here. Oh, sorry guys. Okay, there we go. So let's get this down and right there. It's just what you have to do when you jump around time frame. So here, look, you don't have a golden as you broke the golden zone here, but I don't hate this structure. So it's good. We don't know when it's going to get there. Doesn't look like it's going to make it on that time frame. That's a contender, but that's gold to 1600. Sure, possible. Certainly, why not? Why not? Now there's some things happening here on the smaller degree, and by smaller I mean the 4 hour here, that we can get a better look into this. I know you can't see that. I just want to give you that larger perspective so you get a sense of where we are. Now this, I mean this was a huge move up here that got us. Those are the 1900 highs. So there is, it's hard to be bullish here. I should say long term. So we've got a clear 5 down. So this, is there any alternative here? Let me pull. Let's go. Let's see if a 3-day works. I think we're at 07 here. So I think this was a 50. So if I go back here, oh, it was a golden zone. All right. So from the history that I can get here, so we go golden zone. So you look here and you think, okay, I had something very impulsive here. I've got 5 down right into the golden zone. Where to next? Let's tighten this up. Okay, impulse 5. Well, hard to see something as an Elliottian. With the anticipation would be something up here, and I'm using the median lines here as a guideline here. That we might, that time frame may not work, but it's hard not to anticipate something along these lines, right? So there would be the algo target right at the 786. And again, I'm just using what I can see here. So it's not an inevitability, but boy, it's hard not, well, let me say it this way. You'd certainly want to keep that as an alternate somewhere, so you know that that's potentially all that's happening here. So down to the golden zone, up to the 38. We're going to get to the 50, another golden zone? No, of course, we no way to know, but we can work within where we are here to see where those probability zones, but you have to get some context here as to where we are in this larger degree. So let me take this now back down to the 4 hour. Having made that point, I guess I can take this off here. You gotta be aware of what's happening there. Okay, so with that off, let's go down to the 4 hour. Okay, so here's that low with the slight break at the golden zone. It looks like it's just a pump wick, but for whatever reason, they break it, and then we rally. Now, once we get into the rally, it's very technical. So I'm gonna take this off. Okay, so first up, so I've got a clear 5 here. So coming from that low, wrong one, sorry. Coming from this low, right to the golden zone, right to first target. Little reaction. They ultimately get second target here. Well, it keeps going. So, but my point here, and why you would go back and like, fuck, why do I care? Well, so I want to see I'm looking for my technical pivots, and I want to see if I've got a good 1-2 here. So the fact that we go right to the golden zone and then rip right to target tells me that it reinforces the thinking here that I've got my 5 up into the 1, an ABC into the 2, and then I go into another impulse. Right, so I can go 1, 2, 1, 2. Now that's deep for the second 2, but it's certainly technically valid. So 1, 2, 1, 2. Now we look at this beautiful subdivision we get here. Now I have this channel on here for a reason. I'm going to show you why. So we go 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Right, that's about as. That's what you're looking for in a trend. So when you hear that, don't think, oh, that's exactly what you want to hear. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. That means you've got a trend, that you've got the potential for a trend to really be ripping here. So if this is 1, 2, 1, 2, and then we go into yet another 1, 2, we'll look at this beautiful subdivision we get here. So let me take this off. So from this, then this is deep for a 2. Right? So we don't hold. Now note, from the 2 to the 1. We go to the 786. We know that's common for an Elliott count. Now, if we pull back, knowing, as I will try to remind you guys, this is a pattern that algorithms love. They like to get that ABC kind of structure and then take the next 50. You see it all the time. So if the first one breaks, you go back one. Odds are you're going to catch the second one. So this is the one they use. Again, we know, right, this was technical. This breaks, so you use the next one right in the sweet spot between the 50 and the 618. They get right. So here we go right to first target. They ultimately get second target where we get a third. So the subdivision here, and then again, there's a beautiful little 5 into that one. So everything's just beautiful Elliott trading. Just hard to miss these. Hard to miss the 5s and the 3s here. Then we get this little cluster here. Here's an obvious area for the 4. We kind of just bounce sideways and then break out of it. Now it looked like we may have been done. Because you could have, there was a count, we could have gone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But if you get into the subdivision, it all plays rather nicely. Now, let me declutter this so you can see it. I know it's hard to see. Okay, so 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. So this, now there was one that was kind of interesting here. So you're looking for this kind of confluence. If I take the length of the 1 and I project it from the 2, all right, so here's the high probability zone. We get this, but look here, we get the 2618, which is an extreme for a third relative to the 1, 2. Well, that's not even the third yet. This is the larger 1, 2. So the strength of the trend, but I make the point of just showing you that kind of confluence. So if you break here and it keeps going, don't forget to check this because that's just one more point of confluence to look for up here. Now, so additionally, you'd want to be looking, well, what else is there? Well, if this is my 2 to my 3, well, here's my between the 23 and the 38, high probability zone for the 4. Well, no, we get a little reaction there, but we keep going, and ultimately we get second target. So you keep looking. So what are they using? Well, could that be it? So if we're taking this swing, remember, there it is again. It's this alternating pivots. God, that's annoying. These alternating pivots that they like. So you get that trend, and we come down. Now we go right to target. So 1, 2, 3, 4. It looks like an ABC, some sort of sideways action characteristic of a 4. And we go up, and we ran into that supply zone. This is a prior pivot that we ran into, and then you've got your algo target there. So it looks like the fact that we pulled back here, there's plenty of confluence here. Just whether you're using fib relationships or not, if you're just using long-term supply or resistance, well, it kind of makes sense why we might run into some resistance there. And then we had the Fed minutes and market volatility. So you can make a pretty strong case here that right now, as we sit in this, coming off of this low, we're just in the 1, 2, there's the 3. We're seeking the 4 here. And there's one more push up for the 5 of the third. Okay, so that would be, here's the 1, 2. Now this is our impulse subdivision, all very solid along the way. So we're in search of the 5 of the third of the larger degree. So right now, we're looking for a little ABC to come in here. We want a little ABC to bring us down here for the next buy opportunity. So despite the fact that we've got all of this resistance up here, this is still very tradable. I'm not saying don't trade it and you got to be looking on the short side. This is a clear impulsive structure. I'm saying be patient. Choose your spots wisely. So if this is 1, 2, 3, of course, we're going to pull from the 2 to the 3. Let's get right on there. I think this might be distorting it a little bit. So let's get that off of there. Okay, so I'm pulling from the 2 to the 3, looking for the 4 anywhere. Here's our prime zone. Anywhere from the 23 to the 38 for the 4. Now it's a little early for projection because we don't have the subdivision. No reason to anticipate that we would lose this nice subdivision here to see what the ABC looks like as we come down to this. But of course we can also just wick off some pivots here that may come into play. You always want to look left to see if there's something there. So I've got a little congestion zone here. So maybe there's something there to work with. So I would certainly want to be aware when we get to this level. So that's an obvious, you can see I've already got an alert here. If we come down to this level, I want to know about it. So if this is 1, 2, 3 coming into the 4, there's a nice looking trade potentially there for that move. So you'd be in this range here. Let's call it, I'll call it 1300. There's an 80-point potential there. It's always just potential. Could go up there if we're gonna finish this. Additionally, just again, standard ops, we could take the length of this one, of this degree. If we think, again, I don't have the 4, so I have to just kind of use a couple of potential areas that we might look for. Well, if we bounce to the 38, well, there's the 127. If we're going to hold here, well, here's the 100. Right? Most common would be the area of the 100 to the 1272 for the length of the 1 projected from the proposed 4. Now, I don't have the 4, so this is just a guesstimate. Well, when I see what this looks like, when I get a pivot here, then I can put together a risk-reward profile for potentially a trade and then do the math on what kind of size is appropriate, what kind of risk-reward. But just beautiful, beautiful technical trading here. Now, what I was trying to show you here with the channels. So there's a couple of things you can do. So this, clearly, we get the 3 main pivots of this channel. Excuse me. Now, you think, well, why are you using a channel instead of median lines? You love median lines. Well, it's because we're so far out of it. Now, you could do it. You could just start adding. You go to settings and just start adding the 1.5. Does that catch it? Well, that's pretty good. So there's 2 ways to look at it. So let me take the channel off. Okay, so these seem to be fairly solid. So look where we'd have potential here. So let me get this back on here. Come here. So if I'm taking the 2, assuming that's going to hold as the 3, well, here, so now this gets a little more interesting. So there's the median line play. Now remember, we could certainly go down. So you got 2. Note what could happen here. We could go A, B, and we could come down to the lower parallel and catch the 38. That's what you'd hope for. That would be the ideal setup. Then you'd have this nice potential up here to go after the 5 of the 3. Now, what would be more typical is that the first drive down, if we're going to come down here, you'd get the first fib level here for support. That kicks the B, and then you come down for the C. So that's what I would be looking for if I could script it, right? That would be the ideal. Well, shit, it could even come up here to the upper channel. So you could get something along those lines, puts in the 4 here at this degree. Again, now this is just if it's going to play perfect. It's going to play perfectly here with the median lines, but why not? Why not have that there so that you can anticipate it? So I'm not saying necessarily buy the A into the B. It's, what does the A look like? But if you're patient and you're waiting for this, now for me, I wouldn't be looking to trade the A into the B. I'd wait for the C. I like this. I've got the obvious area where I can anticipate. So I've got all of this. I just look left. So, you got a, pretty solid. Now that's kind of big. Maybe you'd have to use this, tighten it up a little bit. You're just looking for confluence. So what else can I do? So that you have more things guiding you into, can I anticipate some support there? Well, shit, it could break in a flash. You don't know. That's why money management is what matters here. But in terms of putting the roadmap together as to what you're anticipating, I would leave my chart. In fact, I will. This is exactly how I'd leave my chart. And then I'd want alerts here. So in this case, I'd want an alert at the 23 and probably want it. And this one, I might move this down a little bit since we've had this extra kicker here. Since we had this little kick here, as this was a contender to have the thing done. With this extra little kick now, if we're going to come down here and approach the 38, I want to know about that. So I want an alert to go off to tell me. That would give me that lower parallel. Okay, so that's one way to do it, but just to give you a teachable moment here. This is another way to approach it. So we have very clear structure here between the first 3 pivots. All right, so let's see. I'm going to change that. Let's change that color. Let's go to the blue. Okay, so here's this pivot and this pivot. So I've got 1, 2, pardon me, the start of it. Let's get that right on it. Bear with me. Okay, there we go. I want to be precise with that so I can get that angle just right. Okay, there it is. So the first pivot, well, 0, first pivot, third pivot. So I've got a solid channel here. Now look how that potentially now could come back into play as that trend line can be tested. Well, you look at it and say, well, what about all this action up above it? Well, what I'll often do, and I've shown this before, but for any of you that haven't seen this, I'll clone it and then just pull it since I can't just start adding lines. So the first thing I'll do is test right here and say, is this helping me at all? Well, you could, in fact, if you wanted to do this in halves, you could do another one, but then I'll go to the next one. All right, so I've just doubled the channel. You want to try and get it right on there. Okay, so now we see if this is going to come down to here. I'm just starting to stack ideas. So I've got this channel that was very supportive off of those 3 dominant pivots. But now I've had a little throw over here, so I could do the same thing again. I could add another one here. But as we're starting to come down, I would just leave this as potentially just some throw over here on this little kick that happened yesterday. No, that's 2 days ago. So we've had this little drive up here that maybe it's getting the 618, maybe it's just running into that resistance. For whatever reason, now we've gone from 1345 to 1326, so about a 20 point drop in the price since we had that final kick. So that looks to me like this could be done. Now, is there not classic divergence? You don't have, this actually, I mean, we could be extending this further if this is just going to retrace and go again, because if you take it down to this lower level, right, there's nothing wrong with looking here. All right, here's the 50. We've got some structure here. Now we've broken it. So are we just coming down to test the 50 here? What would that mean? Well, could that be the A wave? Well, not likely, not of the degree of the larger degree. It's not deep enough. But it could be if this is, this could go 1, 2. We could have an extension here in the 5th. There's just no way to know. So we want to see, does this hold? If that holds and starts to go, then count is wrong. If this holds. So then, you'd be thinking, oh, wait a minute. Well, maybe all of this has to move higher. And there's there's another leg of this, and all of this has to move. If this goes 1, 2. Because we don't, let's see. Yeah, that looks impulsive. So if I go to an hourly, you could get it. It's not much of a 2, but you can get the 3, 4, and the 5. It's not terrible. So what happens here at the 50? So it could be, you would anticipate there'd be a reaction here. This would be surprising if there weren't. A 20-point drop in gold. We're coming to the first 50. We got a dominant pivot here. Now, is this going to affect the count? Well, let's see what the reaction is here. We're just bumping into this prior structure. So there we go. Vegas wave. Here's the 233. Are we going to hold? Well, if it keeps coming down, then I like it all the more. I like it all the more as the candidate for the A wave. Now, if we hold here, then I get a little less confident. So let's just play that out. So if we hold at the 50, and then we come back here for, let's use the golden zone. Well, so that target would be right here at the 618. Do you see that? Oh, let's see if I move this. So here, let's take that off. So here's your target. So nothing means we have to stop there. We could go second target, but it's going to take a bigger move down here if that's going to go in that capacity. So if we're going to go A, B, we're going to need a big C to come down here to go after those levels that we were just talking about. So first question, how strong are we here? Do we hold? Is the support solid here? Or are they just going to cut right through it? So there's not really a trade here that I would propose, or let me rephrase that. There's not a trade I would take here until I get more information as to what that ABC is going to look like. So I would stay on the 4-hour. I will typically use the 4-hour for entry. And I want to see more complexity here. I definitely am interested down at this level, but I want to see what kind of reaction you hear and what the shape of this looks like. That's not enough to correct this entire move, or even if we're using the 2, it would be very shallow. So I would be in a hurry up and wait mode here. I think it's still, until proven otherwise, we can hold that as the third is in. Let's now again.